everybody, and welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on rashpixel.fm. I'm Pete Wright, and as always, I am here with now Facebook Liver, Nikki Kinzer.
Yay!
Yay!
Out of the comfort zone.
So fun.
So we got to tell people what we're talking about.
I know. We did our first Facebook Live event with the good and kindly Eric Tivers over at ADHD Rewired. Just yesterday, we recorded this yesterday, and the podcast of the event won't go live, as far as I understand it, for a couple of weeks. But at the very last minute, we jumped online and just started talking. He said he hadn't really done it all that much himself, and it would be great to experiment. And lo and behold, then we were live on Facebook, and that was really fun.
Yes.
How'd you feel?
I thought it was great. It was so much fun. So if people want to see it, they can see it on our page at Take Control ADHD, but you can also see it on ADHD Rewired too, on his Facebook page. And it was great because I was telling you before we got on the call today that it was actually good that he didn't give me really a time to think about it. He was just like, what do you guys think? You want to do this? And I'm just like, yeah. And Pete was like, yeah, let's do it.
Oh, you would have said no. Had that been in an email, you would have said absolutely
well,
no.
If it had
need to explore that later.
Yeah. If it had just been me and you, I'd been like, no way, Pete Wright. So Eric gave me a little bit of that push to get me out of my comfort zone, and it was great. So I think we're going to try to maybe do that in the future.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't know if we'll do it every week. It would be so nice to just be able to say, we record this on Fridays at 10. It would be great if we could just have this open session and take questions as best we have time to accommodate as we record the podcast. I think it would be really exciting. I would love to do it. I'm just not sure about the. I tried to do it this morning. The technology is not easy.
Right.
And in some cases, it's the whole thing. You can have it easy, cheap, or
pay a little and.
Well, I don't know. There's a third leg to that. You can only have two. Anyway, so I could pay up. It's very expensive, or it's free and doesn't work.
Right. I don't know. Where do we meet? Yeah. But
yeah,
I would also love to hear from the listeners too. If you guys, what do you guys think? Would that be of value to you to see Pete and I like live on Facebook? I don't know. I mean, I don't,
not nearly as polished as the finished podcast.
Well, it's not. That's the thing, is you're getting kind of you're getting the real us. It's not the edited us. But if it is something you guys would be interested in, please let us know and give us your feedback. Because if it's not, if you guys don't care, then that's the other thing that we have to think about. That then maybe it's not, it's not worth looking into the technology. So,
Nikki swears like a Viking.
I do not.
That's what you people don't know. She swears like a Viking.
No, I just forget to turn my phone off, and it beeps throughout the whole thing. Yeah, that's what I do. Is I forget to do those things.
Today's show was I had this whole idea of a thing I wanted to talk about, and then we got a bunch of feedback that it's all really great questions that we got in. So it's sort of a multi-personality disordered show.
Right.
I want to talk about value today and the value that we apply to the things in our lives. We're going to try and get to that after we get to some of these great emails. Before we jump into that, of course, head over to TakeControlADHD.com, learn about the show, subscribe for free in iTunes, wherever finer podcasts are served, or, of course, Facebook. Make sure you like the Facebook page if you are interested at all in the Facebook Live experiment we're going to try and do here. And, of course, you can follow us also at Take Control ADHD on Twitter. You can call us at 503-664-4ADD. We'd love to get your thoughts and questions on this show. And use those channels, please, and let us know what you think about the Facebook Live opportunity here. Would you be interested in tuning in? There you go. All right. So we have all this feedback. Nikki, do you have an idea where you would like to start?
No. I am very, it's so funny.
You don't care.
Well, it's so funny because one of the things that I came out of our interview with Eric yesterday was I really kind of liked how it was sort of unstructured. It kind of just went wherever it wanted to go. And
clearly yesterday's event was therapy for you.
It really was. And, I know that, and I'm a structured person. I like to have a plan. I like to have like bullet points and things to talk about. But I didn't do that with this one because this show, is kind of your show because you are going to talk about these value things and I'm going to chime in. Mm-hmm. But the follow-up stuff, I just think we should just dig in because I
Okay.
haven't put a whole lot of thought. I wanted to actually listen to you ask the question, and then I'm going to just go from there.
Listener Gwen wrote in with a question. She's a PhD student in the UK and has really been struggling on doing any writing of her thesis over the last 3 years since coming back from her field work, which in the backstory here was in Africa. Long story short, she says, since I found it so difficult to do any work on this over the past while, are there any techniques that you could suggest that would help me work with my supervisors and motivate myself daily with my writing? A little caveat, because I'm in the UK, PhDs here are really different to the US apparently, as we never have to take classes. It's essentially just the thesis over all 4 years, and it needs to be in the region of about 100,000 words. Maybe US ones are shorter. Anyway, it means this doing the same thing day after day for the next 10 months until my submission date. Panic stations. I'd love to hear anything you or your clients and other listeners have found useful in attempting a mammoth task like this. This is a tricky one. It's one of the reasons I wanted to write. I wanted to add the bit about PhDs being different in the UK versus the US. Now, of course, in the US, there is coursework, and then there's a long period of thesis. But having no like in-class coursework, you miss the sort of routine. The classes become an accountability partner in a way.
Right.
You've got to show up to class. You've got to do some of the work. So with the absence of any of that sort of rigor and routine, the daily expectations, the weekly expectations of participation, I understand how this feels like an absolute mountain to climb.
Well, it is. And I think, a couple things come to mind when you're talking about routine that I think in this particular situation, she has to kind of actually create one of her own. And it probably needs to have something to do with have an accountability piece to it. So whether that is a friend or a family member, a neighbor, a professor, maybe another student, would be really probably very beneficial if she can find somebody else that's going through the same thing that she's doing. But I do think that there's probably going to be, it would probably help her to have some kind of routine in place. So I'm going to go back to this like mini habits, right? You know how much I love mini habits. Mm-hmm. And one of the examples he uses is writing. Like, I'm going to write 1 page a day, and then that's what I'm going to do. Well, in her situation, she's going to have to write more than probably 1 page a day. So the mini habit idea is not going to necessarily work with her in the sense that she has a specific deadline where she has to write a lot of words. So, but I could still see how you could adjust that to work in her favor. And that would mean, okay, if it's due in 10 months, where is she now in the project? Really get a good temperature of where she is right now. What does she have to do between now and 10 months? Get some help to help her break that down on what that would look like on a daily basis, or at least Monday through Friday, maybe taking a couple of days off, for the weekend or whatever her schedule's like. But I do think there's got to be some kind of structure built in place. If she goes into this with no structure and no support and no like real tangible goals, I really see herself kind of panicking when it's now a month before it's due and she's not there yet. And then she's going to be, working all night long and maybe not turning in her best work. I mean, or not turning it in at all, right? I mean, that can happen too. Mm-hmm. So that's my first instinct is you got to figure out how to make this happen in your daily routine. What do you think?
Well, when I work with students, the trick that worked for me, and this doesn't work for everybody, but the trick that worked for me was to write garbage, right? Mm-hmm. The thing that I find allows me to trigger into the hyperfocus in a very positive way is editing, right? I can edit, I can revise, I can do my lit analysis, I can do go back to my research and do all of my sourcing and come up with all of the stuff that goes into a thesis. I can do all of that once I have something to work from. But the blank page is terror, even in a thesis.
I can see that, right?
You hear this a lot in fiction writers too. It's this whole idea of, staring at the blank page is just, it's blood from a stone. It's just
I have to tell you, it happens to blog writers. I mean, it is so funny you say that because my blogs, if you ever read them, they're only a couple paragraphs long. I mean, I do not like go into great like depth. I don't write books on my blogs by any means,
right.
but I totally know what you mean, because this morning I looked at this blank page blog post for next week, title, nothing. And all I'm seeing is white. And then I just thought, you know what? I'm not even going to deal with this until after I do the podcast with Pete, and then I'll think about it. But I know what you're saying. I mean, I can't even imagine doing a thesis with a blank page.
Yeah. It's terrible.
Yeah.
So for me, I have to focus on the number, right? I have to focus on, like, I break down that 100,000 and I think, okay, I'm going to break that down to roughly, it comes out to about 6 pages a day, 1,600 words a day, and or 6.5 pages, I think, when you're assuming about 250 words a page. And I do that kind of calculation, and I write garbage. I write uncited, unsourced. It is all from memory of the research that I've done. It is just to get placeholder text in there. And sometimes it's written explicitly, like, in this section, what I'm going to be talking about is this. And I remember this one guy who said this thing. I'm going to have to go back and check that, but I need to write this and really write the garbage to get over the hump of having the blank page. And then know you have this allows you to see the overall structure of the narrative you're trying to tell, and it gets the words on the page so you can see, at 100,000 words, I can pretty much get the first really, we'll call it even alpha draft, done in 60 days, right? You really can generate that kind of content in 60 days, and it's terrible. It is absolutely terrible. But, this is the thing. Sculptors creating masterpieces, they start from a block of wood, right? Or a block of clay, clay, or a block of stone, right? When you're writing a thesis, you don't have even a block of stone. You have to create the stone first. And that's why I think, being super aggressive in the number of drafts that you expect to write of each particular section, chapter, whatever, it's helpful to just have the structure in place.
Well, and I still have to add, I think it's helpful to have the accountability in place too.
Oh, yeah.
So somebody you can check in with.
That we actually at the university I've seen students pull together, for their thesis committees will help organize, writing clubs for, years on that where people come in and out. But there will be a regular writing time, a regular time where you come in, with your laptop and a thermos of coffee and all of your, stacks of folders of research, and everybody will sit at a table. Sometimes no one will speak at all. Sometimes someone will say, give me the name of that, the capital of that country, and it'll just come up. So you'll have somebody to bounce something off of, somebody to walk to the bathroom with. It really helps to have the environment of writing to get over the hump of not being able to turn it on.
Yeah, getting started. Yeah.
It's but nothing can underscore just how hard it is, Gwen. It is incredibly difficult to do, especially after 3 years. That compounds. I'm sure you're feeling. Let me say this. I would be feeling shame. That shame is fake. It is not real. Let it go. You are okay. You are not alone. A lot of people do this. Don't let go of the brass ring, though. Don't do all the work that you did and let it go. You deserve to finish.
Oh, that's nice. Good encouraging words from Pete, right?
It's huge.
Love that.
Well, as somebody, I see so many people go through this and they end up here. It's ABD, go through the coursework in your PhD program and then you don't finish. You don't finish the thesis, your all but dissertation. You don't finish the dissertation. You don't defend it. After all the work of the research and the coursework, not to do that, it's such a shame. It is heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking to see that happen. But I totally understand why it does. Anyway, good luck.
Yes, good luck, right. Gwen. You got us supporting you.
That's right, in your corner. All right, so the next thing we have on the list, next feedback, let's see. This comes from Levi, and I wanted to get your position on this because it's relationship advice, but it's so important. It's so important. Levi is writing about the changes that he's making in his life as a result of his ADHD, but he's going into a relationship. He's starting a life with his girlfriend, and he says, I don't want to start the life with my girlfriend, life we talk about using the same methods I've been using when I only had myself to worry about. She's a catalyst for all this change, and I'm pursuing. I'm currently looking for the best resource to share with her to help from a spouse or partner perspective. She's heard every explanation and analogy I could muster to this point, and I'm at the point where I don't think I'm helping anymore by explaining it. I love this question so much. How do you help someone who wants to help their partner learn more about their ADHD?
Oh, I love that. Well, and I love the fact that, he's taking the time to invest in this, for their relationship. So I think that's a great way to start thinking about the future and getting, possibly married. He doesn't say married, but that might be in the future for them. Mm-hmm. So, this is actually the relationships with ADHD, is a topic that I would really like for us to explore and definitely take a month where, most of our podcasts have some kind of theme to it. So I would like to take a month where we can really focus on relationships and ADHD and get a couple of experts to come in and maybe answer some questions and get really more specific about this issue, because I think it's huge. But a couple of things that just come up to mind is if you're thinking about having external support, I think therapy is a good way. And therapy doesn't mean that something's wrong with your relationship. It just means that you want to find different ways to communicate together, and that you do have different ways to think of things that she does. And so all it is helping you. It's not something, you don't have to go into therapy because something's wrong. So I just want to make that clear. The other resource that I want to share with people, and if I can get this woman on our show, I would be very pleased. I don't know how realistic that is, but her name is
Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah, Oprah Winfrey. That's right. Oprah, come on board. I have aha moments all the time because of you.
That's right.
No, her name is Melissa Orlove, and I hope I get that right. And she is the author of The Couple's Guide to Thriving with ADHD. She also has one, The ADHD Effect on Marriage is the other one that she wrote. I've seen her speak at CHAD conferences. I've actually spoken to her personally after one of her seminars to ask her questions. She's fascinating. This is what she does. I mean, this is her work, is to, talk to couples who either both have ADHD or one has ADHD, and how to communicate and how to work through that. So, just as a resource, check that out. The Couple's Guide to Thriving with ADHD. And, hopefully I can get her on the show.
That's excellent. That is excellent. Let's do that. We'll put links in the show notes, Levi. And kudos for reaching out and for doing the work beforehand to make sure that you're on the same page. It's incredibly valuable to do that. Next question comes from Tammy, who writes that she's dealing with some challenges with her son's school. She says, he used to love going and learning, but I see signs of him becoming an at-risk student, and I find it disturbing. Our district's seeming lack of concern and willingness to do their part in educating him. There was turnover in administration since our 504. She says, I've been trying since October to meet with the school psychologist, but, she's there only 2 days a week and is serving a school of about 500 middle school and high school students. The one day I finally had an appointment, I had to cancel for my own health. He's had a full evaluation from a neuropsych since early 5th grade. They do so. It looks like she's doing all of these things, as an advocate for her son. His grades are not good, and he has a frazzled mother that doesn't know how to go about disentangling the mess. Oh my goodness. Well, I think I can say we relate.
Oh yes, my heart goes out to her. I mean, it's
totally.
Hard.
And neither of us are actually, we're not in the school system. And since, our conversation really is focused on adults, do you have any immediate insights? I went out and did some research, so I do have
Well,
some things to share.
I'm glad you did the research. Yes, because when I first read this, my heart goes out to her as a mother, especially with having a middle school child myself, who I've talked about is we've had some challenges. So it's very hard, and it's really it's just I feel a lot of empathy for her, because I know how it feels to just be at that point where you just don't know what to do next. Like you feel so powerless. Like I just don't know what to do. And that's just a terrible place to be. Unfortunately, because I don't personally work with children and schools, I just don't have a lot of information to share or to provide to her that I think would be, I don't know if it's accurate or not. You know what I mean? And so if this was coming to me personally, I would be referring her to other ADHD coaches or other ADHD resources that do specifically work with a younger age group and their families. So that's where my stance was. But you did do some research because you have a wife, right? Who sort of deals with this. Well, you have that wife.
I have a wife. Yeah. Well, and a fairly extensive network of people who work in the schools and work in special ed and work specifically in this capacity. And all of them are loath to give specific advice on, any of this sort of a case, because it's delicate stuff, right? Talking about kids on a podcast. But I will tell you, in terms of the collection of thoughts that I got from people who work in this space, right? Number one, the school doesn't have to do what the doctor recommends. So that's something to just understand. The doctor can give you, external doctor can give you all the evaluation that you want to do, that is illustrative, but it's not an order, right? The school psych is going to need to do their own, or make a decision about whether they do their own tests and ongoing testing as a result of their experience with your son in the classroom. And so that's really important to note, that the most important thing you can do is find someone at the school to work with that is on your team. Someone, get as many teachers as you possibly can in your court. Teachers who are willing to share, what does work in the classroom when it works in the classroom, what does engage your son when he's engaged. Get those teachers to the meetings as much as you can. The challenge here is that you are the advocate. You are the follow-up person. The school, as you already indicated, is way too overworked to be anything, to act in that capacity for you. And it's super, super challenging. Now, federal IDEA law sets timelines on care. So once you start the process, there is some onus of responsibility on the part of the care of the infrastructure in the school to move the process forward. It doesn't always happen the way it needs to happen, just again because of workloads. But it's better. So, once you get your teachers in the process, once you feel like you have a team, once you have like a key teacher who really does support your son, there's always a teacher. There's always one who is connected with your son. Find the one that can really be on your side inside the school. And that's really the approach. The number one bit of advice that multiple people said: don't approach them as if they are the enemy. Right? Mm-hmm. They're all in it somehow or another for the benefit of your son, whether or not they're overworked, busy, exhausted, fatigued. They come off one day as angry and annoyed that you're calling too much, whatever. They're not your enemy. And so, you've got to work with the people who show up so it is really hard, and it puts you in a position of having to do a lot of work to move the process forward. But it's the long game, right? You got to keep remembering this isn't a short-term thing, right? This is you are playing a long game. So think beyond just the next grading period. Think about what are we doing today to set my son up for next year and the year after and the year after that.
Right.
That's
great.
I think it was some pretty good feedback, and it's fairly non-specific, again, because we don't know the case. So I apologize for that. You may know all this, but hopefully it's something connects. Mm-hmm. So there you go. All right. How about Leslie? Leslie writes in, says, I am frustrated and embarrassed by the fact that I struggle to process and retain information. Every day at work, I'm bombarded with questions by people who expect me to have answers, as in on the spot. I find myself giving wrong answers and making myself look even worse. I've contemplated having a standard response to get people off my back so I have time to gather my thoughts and get answers they want. Is this common? Do you have any suggestions?
Yes, it's common. And
yes.
I mean, that's impulsive behavior.
Yep.
You know, when somebody asks you a question and you immediately feel like you have to answer, and not going through the thought process, you answer it. So yes, it's very common. Very common. Also, it's not only just the impulsive behavior of wanting to answer, but also not setting boundaries. So if you're a people pleaser, you're going to want to say yes to things, or you're going to want to help people regardless if you have the answer or not. You want to be looked at as helping them, right? So there's a lot of things that could be going on around here. So you are not alone.
Yeah, totally.
You know, and I think she answered her question. Honestly,
Yeah.
when she says, I've contemplated having a standard response to get people off my back,
don't
contemplate it.
More.
Do it.
Do
yeah.
it.
Like get something that you feel comfortable with, and just say, you know, what I tell people when they need that time is just say, hey, you know, thank you so much for this invitation, or I need to look into this, you know, let me get back to you tomorrow, or can I get back to you by the end of the week, or depending on how big the decision is. But your first response should not be yes. It should be, you know, thank you for asking, but I need to think about it. Or I need to check out my calendar. I need to make sure that I have the right answer for you. You know, I've done this before with webinars where somebody will ask me a question and I don't know the answer right away. I have no problem with saying, that is a great question and I don't have the answer for you right now, but I'm going to get it for you and I'll email you directly. Because I would much rather give them the right answer, or given myself some time to really process it and think about it before I immediately answer it. So I think you also have to be okay with not having the answer right away.
Yes. I think the best thing you can do for yourself is stare in a mirror and say over and over again, I don't know.
Let me get back to you.
It is so important to just say, I don't know, because the implied follow-on to that is, I understand you coworker or you boss will be disappointed in the fact that I don't have the answer on the tip of my tongue or right at my fingertips, but I cannot control your emotional response to the fact that I don't know right here on the spot. Your response to me is out of my control. I can't touch that. I can't affect it. All I can tell you is I'm going to write down in my notebook right here that you have this question, and I'm going to find out the answer.
Right.
And as soon as I have the answer, I'll get it to you. That's the longer sentence.
Yeah.
But what you really are saying is, hey, I don't know. Let me write that down. I'll get back to you.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yep.
It's okay not to know.
You don't have to know everything.
Oh my goodness. The trouble with giving the wrong answer, with habituating the wrong answer, it is so incredibly powerfully damaging to your reputation. Not
only that, but gosh, embarrassment too, your self-esteem, you know, so reputation for sure, but just also your self-worth of, oh my God, I don't know. I mean, you can just see I'm stupid. I can't believe I said that. And then the ruminating of having it just go in your mind over and over and over again. Just terrible.
But again,
toxic.
You are not alone. You are absolutely not alone. And this is a plague of work, right? This is a plague of the pace at which we work. And I think it is so important to be the role model of the kind of behavior you want to experience. And being able to say, I don't know, and take some time to reflect, it very, very rarely is the end of the world on the line.
Well, right? That's right. And I think that, you bring up a good point that it is hard, and there's a consciousness that you have to have when that question is now brought to you. So something that I remember learning when I was in my coaching program is the power of the pause. And they would have us think about a button, like a red button that had pause on it, or a stop sign or something like that, that whenever you needed to have a second before you responded, whether it was a question or you got angry even and you needed to wait before you responded, to always kind of think about that pause button. So, I mean, that takes work. I mean, that takes a conscious effort to say, okay, I'm going to be in this, here I am going to work, and it's pretty likely that I'm going to have a question asked. I have to really visualize that pause button before I respond.
So important. I really like that metaphor. And the power of visualization is not to be understated, right? I love the visual pause button. I love practicing in a mirror. I love the idea of seeing yourself take action when the stakes are low, right? So that when the stakes are higher and you're actually faced with, hey, I got to pause. Hey, I got to tell you this. It's going to disappoint you, but I don't know.
Yeah. That reminds me, because I remember talking about this with someone a while ago, and we came up with the idea of having her just practice saying no to her husband. So whenever there was something, and that was easy, right? Because, he knew what she was trying to do. It wasn't a heated situation. She wasn't saying no to everything, but but it was a safe place for her to practice and practice that, visualization of, okay, before I answer immediately, I'm going to say no, and practice with him before you have to go say no to your boss. Right. And so, finding that safe place to practice is always a good idea.
It is so good. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you, Leslie, for writing in. I know, again, you are not alone, but put a stop to the quick answers. You're okay to say, I don't know. Next story is actually just a story. It's not even a question, but I love it so much that I want to share it. This is Rosario writes in about our limiting belief conversation, this ongoing series on limited beliefs. And she's sharing her limiting belief. She says, hi, Nikki, my limiting belief was that I could not go beyond my comfort zone. I've not been diagnosed with ADHD, but I have many of the problems that people with ADHD have. I forget important things to do. I get distracted a lot. It's hard for me to follow my chore schedule. I super focus on favorite things or projects. How I conquered my limiting belief of fear of driving on freeways. Oh, is she ever not alone on this one? And to places that are far from my comfort zone, I started facing my fear and driving short distances on the freeway at a time. It took me a few years to finally drive an hour to see my parents on my own. I always depended on others to take me or took the train to avoid driving there. I was always fearful of driving on long bridges and through long tunnels, but just this year, I drove for the first time on my own to San Francisco on the Bay Bridge. I'd been driving for 10 years within my comfort zone until I faced my fears 3 years ago. Congratulations. That's huge. It feels so empowering.
It's fantastic. And, I love San Francisco. So I thought that was great because I was like, I totally know where I can only imagine what she was thinking when she finally got to the other side and that celebration and what a great place to be when you're celebrating because I love San Francisco.
Totally. And that Bay Bridge is long, right?
It's long
that's a long bridge. It's got a big curve in it. Like it is one of the scary, it could be a scary bridge if this is outside of your comfort zone. But congratulations. And here's to many, many more bridges to come.
That's right.
Because there's some great bridges in the world and now you can drive on them.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Awesome.
So I thank you for sharing that. I think it's
Thank you so much. And thank you everybody for writing in. These have been such great questions. As much as I wanted to talk all about my value thing, I feel like we're out of time.
I know, because we don't do real long podcasts.
And
I think
if we accustomed to that.
No, and if
that's
we do,
okay. I feel like it's a good conversation. I'm looking forward to your insights on this too, because it is again me sharing a trap I fall into all the time. So we will reschedule this conversation.
Yes.
And just be thankful for all the great questions today.
Yes, thank you guys very much.
Wonderful.
If you have more, bring them on. We're happy to answer them.
Yeah,
and if we're on Facebook Live, we might be able to answer them live, like right there at the moment.
I can't wait.
Good stuff.
Our broadcast future. Raising a glass. Thanks, everybody, for your time and attention. On behalf of Nikki Kinzer, I'm Pete Wright. And we'll catch you next time right here on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.